That particular day found Michael on the evening shift at his local restaurant job. When the sun shone, he was buried in books at the Institute, emerging only to dash to his work as the night rolled in. Back at his simple home, his mom and little brother would be counting on him. He was their main guy, the only one bringing in any money, since they didn't have a dad around to help. The money Michael earned was barely enough to make ends meet. In the evening, as Michael was serving a lively crowd of customers, tables filled up fast. Guests came and went in a constant buzz. Then in came an older woman, her clothes dirty and giving off a strong, bad smell that made people frown and scoot their chairs away. She looked like she was having a hard time, breathing real hard and struggling to walk straight. She shuffled her way to the nearest empty table and eased herself into a chair. The nearby diners watched her with clear disapproval, their faces twisting into frowns. The room filled with quiet but pointed grumbling, all directed at the woman. She seemed out of place, uncomfortable, and she looked down, embarrassed. Gathering the little strength she had, she asked the people sitting close if they could help her out. But they barely looked at her, one of them sharply saying, "This restaurant isn't for the homeless. You should find a shelter or somewhere else to go," before turning back to their food, ignoring her plea. Michael's colleague, another server, quickly signaled for the manager, who arrived promptly, his gaze sweeping over the guests and the scene before him. He made his way to the elderly woman. Gently but firmly, he guided her by the arms toward the exit. She tried to speak, her voice quivering with emotion, pleading for some understanding, but he wasn't having any of it. Briskly, he showed her out and closed the door, leaving the woman to slowly disappear down a shadowed alley. The manager then offered a brisk apology to the other guests for the brief disturbance and retreated back to his office. Seeing what had happened, Michael couldn't just stand by. Something inside him stirred, and without pausing to think it through, he took off after the woman as she left the restaurant. He caught sight of which way she went, and it wasn't long before he spotted her, just a short distance away. There she was, huddled on a bench, her hands clasping her head, her frame shaking from sobs. It was clear she was crying, not just from the chill of the night, but from a deep sense of hurt and embarrassment. Michael felt so sorry for the elderly lady. He sat down next to her on the bench. He took out all the tips he had earned that evening. It wasn't much. He had planned to pick up some groceries for the whole family after work. But this poor old lady, so disgracefully thrown out of the restaurant by the manager, surely needed them more at the moment. Clearly, she was very hungry and had no roof over her head. Michael knew that no matter what, he always had a place to return to, even if it meant coming home without groceries. Without a second thought, he handed the money to the woman. "Take this. It's not much, but it's enough for you to buy dinner." The woman turned her tear-filled face towards him. There was something unusual about her, something that set her apart from other homeless people. She reached out her hand and took the money from Michael. With her other hand, she gently touched his shoulder. "Thank you, kind sir. I promise you there will come a time when you'll receive everything you rightfully deserve." With these words, she got up and disappeared into the darkness. Michael made his way back to the restaurant, his mind still on the old lady he'd left on the bench. As he stepped through the door, the manager quickly cornered him, his face a mix of confusion and irritation. "Why did you leave your post, Michael?" he demanded, his voice stern and reprimanding. Michael could feel a knot forming in his stomach. He hadn't thought about the consequences of his actions, driven by concern for the woman. He worried now, not just about the manager's reaction, but also about the elderly lady's well-being in the cold, unforgiving night outside. Time passed, and he had begun to forget about the whole incident. He continued to work at the restaurant, where his colleagues and customers appreciated him for his openness, kindness, and ability to engage with anyone. They often told him that he had an innate goodness not commonly found in others. Then one fine day, an elderly lady, dressed very elegantly, entered the restaurant. She looked sophisticated, and it was evident she had not only wealth, but also a high position in society. One of the waitstaff whispered, "Isn't that Barbara Hamilton, the owner of our restaurant chain?" The restaurant manager appeared out of nowhere and approached the table where the lady had seated herself. Recognizing the unexpected guest, he, of course, wanted to serve her personally. Good day, Ms. Hamilton. We are very pleased to see you in our restaurant. What may I get for you? His smile was insincere and forced. It was apparent that all this fawning was meant only to curry favor with the owner of the restaurant chain and his boss. Ms. Hamilton looked at him with disdain. I remember 2 weeks ago you treated me quite differently, she said. The manager's face turned puzzled. We spoke 2 weeks ago? I don't recall. You may not remember, but I remember very well. I was robbed that evening. They took everything I had, including my coat and shoes, and then they shoved my face into the dirt. Fortunately, some homeless folks were kind enough to lend me a coat. I barely managed to make it here, to one of my own restaurants, to ask for help. I just needed to use a phone to call a cab, I suspect. But you didn't even bother to listen to what I was saying. And you kicked me out the door, remember? The manager's face contorted with a grimace of despair. He tried to say something, but the words got stuck in his throat. Meanwhile, Ms. Hamilton continued. Well then, I have decided to dismiss you from your post as manager. I do not want such heartless and merciless people working in my establishment. You have 1 hour to collect your things and write your resignation. I wish you all the best. Seeing Michael, the lady approached him. Good day, young man. Do you recognize me? Michael nodded with a smile. Yes, of course. Ms. Hamilton's face lit up. Do you remember when I told you there would come a day when you will receive all that you deserve? Well, today is that day. I want to appoint you as manager of this restaurant. You will need to undergo some special training, but I believe you can manage. After all, you already have the most important quality, kindness to people. Michael smiled modestly and looked down as his colleagues, the waitstaff, and all the patrons of the restaurant applauded joyously. The unfolding scene became an unexpected lesson for everyone. Everyone that day was reminded of a simple truth that should resonate with us all. Kindness is universal, a language that transcends appearance and status. It's a reminder to all of us that every person we meet, regardless of how they look or where they're from, has their own story and their own struggles. Treating each person with kindness isn't just nice, it's necessary. Remember, a small act of compassion can light up the dark, change a life, and remind us of our shared humanity. Let Michael's experience be a lesson to us that in the end, kindness is the strongest currency we have. As we wrap up our story today, let's carry with us the enduring warmth of kindness that Michael showed. May his actions inspire us to extend a hand, a smile, or a kind word to those around us, for these are the moments that weave the fabric of our shared humanity. If you found value in this message and the story we shared, please remember to hit subscribe or write a few words in the comments below. By joining our community, you help spread positivity and you won't miss out on more stories that touch the heart just like this one. Stay positive and sound, and may your life be filled with blessings.